Kevin walked through my front door on that cold Wednesday morning like he owned every inch of the place. I was fixing lunch when he told me the news. Mom Sandra and I talked it over. Her mother needs a place. The kids need more room. We're moving everyone in here next week. That's final. I'm 72 years old. I worked in a factory for 30 years to pay for this little house. Now my own boy tells me strangers will sleep in my rooms. He didn't ask. He just told me. But what Kevin didn't know was that while he talked, I was already making plans. This time, Eleanor Davis wasn't going to sit quiet and take what nobody else wanted to deal with. I stood there holding my sandwich, watching him look around my kitchen like he was planning where to put his things. Like all those years I spent working didn't matter. Like what I wanted was just something small that could be pushed aside. Are you listening, Mom? Sandra is packing right now. The boys, Tommy and Jake, are excited about having a yard to play in. And Grace can't stay by herself anymore. She's too sick and we can't pay for help. You have 3 bedrooms here. You only use one. Grace, my daughter-in-law's mother. Lady I met twice. Now she was coming to live in my home. In my safe place. In the house where I finally had peace after my husband died. After I raised 4 kids. After spending my whole life giving and giving without getting much back. A stranger was going to take my spare bedroom. The room I saved up for years to paint and fix up nice. Kevin, I said, trying to keep my voice steady even though my heart was breaking. This is my house. Bought it. Pay for it. He laughed right at me. He laughed like I said something silly. Like a woman my age shouldn't have opinions about her own life. That laugh hurt worse than yelling ever could. It was a laugh that said I didn't matter. That said he could decide things for me without caring what I thought. Oh Mom, don't make such a big deal out of it. Just for a little while. Just until we save enough for something bigger. And anyway, having people around will be good for you. At your age, you shouldn't be alone. What if you fall and nobody knows? My age. There it was. That thing my kids said when they wanted me to do what they wanted. Like turning 72 made me helpless. Like everything I learned in my life meant nothing compared to what a 42-year-old man thought was best. Like I hadn't proved for 7 decades that I could take care of myself just fine. The truth is, I liked living alone. I could watch whatever shows I wanted. I could eat whenever I felt like it. I could have my book club friends over any time. I learned how to use my phone. I had my group chat with the ladies from church. I walked every evening around the block. I didn't need anyone watching over me. When are you bringing them? Yes. My voice sounded different, but he didn't notice. He didn't see that I wasn't the same quiet woman anymore. This Friday. Sandra has boxes everywhere. The boys will share your craft room. You'll love having them here, Mom. Grace will take the blue bedroom. We'll sleep on the couch for now until we figure things out. For now. What a lie that was. I knew Sandra well enough. Once she moved in, she'd never leave. I knew Kevin well enough. His short-term plans became long-term problems that I had to fix. I saw him do this same thing to his sister when she needed a place for a weekend and stayed for 18 months. My craft room. That space where I kept my knitting needles and yarn and patterns. Where I made blankets for the new babies at church. Where I went when I needed to think. Now it would be a bedroom for 2 boys who weren't bad kids, but who would wreck my quiet life. While he kept talking about how he'd arrange my furniture and change my spaces and how I'd adjust to his new plans, something woke up inside me. It wasn't anger exactly. It wasn't sadness. It was something stronger. It was determination. A power I hadn't felt in years. I thought I'd lost it when I got older. I'd always been the mom who said yes. The one who gave up things for everyone else. The one who worked extra hours so my children could go to school. The one who didn't buy new shoes for years so I could save money for this house. But at 72 years old, in my own house with my own rules, I wasn't going to be that woman anymore. "Okay, Kevin," I finally said. I saw him relax. He thought he won. "Bring them on Friday." He smiled like he'd gotten his way. He kissed my forehead like I was a good girl who did what she was told. Then he left, leaving behind the smell of that cheap body spray he always wore. He left thinking he solved his problems by giving them to me. He left believing his mother was the same woman she'd always been. The one who never said no. The one who always made things work somehow. But he didn't know Eleanor Davis had other ideas. He didn't know that while he was celebrating, I was already planning. He didn't know that this time, for the first time in 72 years, I was going to do things my way. He didn't know he woke up something in me that had been sleeping for too long. I picked up my phone and called Margaret, my friend from the evening walks. I needed to talk to someone who would understand. Someone who knew what it meant to fight for your own space after giving everything away for so long. Margaret, it's Eleanor. Can you come by tomorrow morning? I need to talk about something really important. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up thinking about every detail. Every move I needed to make. Kevin thought he knew me. He thought he knew exactly what I'd do. He thought I was the same pushover as always. The one who accepted everything without fighting back. But he was about to get the surprise of his life. This time, Eleanor Davis was going to show them who she really was. The next morning, I woke up at 6 like I did every day since I stopped working. Kevin thinks my life is boring and empty. But I have things I do that I like. Things that make me happy. Things I built for myself after decades of living for other people. First thing, I check my phone. I have messages from the church ladies group where Margaret, Beth, and the others share morning greetings and recipes and news about the neighborhood. I also check my email where I see pictures of my grandkids who live in different states. The ones who actually care about me and send me notes saying they love me. I got up, took a shower and put on my purple sweatshirt. The one I bought last month when Margaret and I went shopping. I put on a little lipstick like my granddaughter taught me on a video call. I like looking nice because it makes me feel good. At 72, I learned that taking care of yourself isn't being vain. It's about respecting yourself. I made my breakfast. Toast with jam. Tea with honey. My vitamin for my joints. I turned on my favorite songs. Those old songs from when I was young that make me remember good times. I ate slowly at my table, looking out at the little flower garden in my backyard. It's small but it's mine. At 7:30, Margaret came over and rang the doorbell. She actually respects my house. Not like some people who just walk in like they own the place. My friend is 69. Her husband died like mine did. She's lived alone in her little apartment for 6 years. We met at the evening walking group and we've been best friends ever since. What's going on, Eleanor? You sounded really worried yesterday. I told her everything while I poured tea. I explained how Kevin came in with his mind already made up. How he treated me like I was a little kid with no say about my own life. Margaret listened the way only real friends do. Friends who've been through the same kinds of things. And what did you tell him? That it was fine. That he should bring them on Friday. Margaret stared at me. She thought I was going to tell her about a big fight. About crying. About yelling. But I'm not that woman who gets all emotional anymore. I learned there are smarter ways to handle things. Eleanor, are you sure? You know what Sandra is like. Once she moves in, she'll never leave. And with Grace and the boys, your house will be crazy all the time. Exactly. Margaret understood better than my own son. She knew what it cost to keep up a home. What it meant to have your own space. How important it was to have peace after a lifetime of taking care of everyone else. That's why I need to move fast, I told her. I saw her eyes get curious and interested. I explained my plan. It wasn't something I just thought of. It was something I'd been thinking about for months. Ever since Kevin started dropping hints about how my house was too big for just one person. Ever since Sandra started making comments about how nice it would be to have a house with a yard. Eleanor, are you serious? Are you really going to do that? Margaret, I'm 72 years old. I've worked my whole life to have something that's mine. I'm not going to let anyone, not even my son, take away the peace I worked so hard to get. My friend smiled. That smile when two people understand each other perfectly. That smile of someone who knows that at a certain age, you don't have time to make everyone else happy when they don't appreciate you. What do you need me to do? That question showed me why Margaret was my best friend. She didn't judge me. She didn't tell me I was being too sensitive. She didn't ask me to think about Kevin's feelings. She just offered to help. That's what real friendships are like between older women. They support each other without asking too many questions. Right now, I just need you to come with me to a few places this week. And if anyone asks, you don't know anything about it. We had a nice breakfast while planning everything. Margaret told me her son tried something similar last year. He suggested she sell her apartment and move into a care home to make things easier. As if she needed help. As if she wasn't the one always lending him money when he ran short. It's amazing how our own kids sometimes treat us worse than strangers do, she said while we washed the cups. Like giving birth to them means they can decide everything for us forever. Exactly. That was what many women our age lived with quietly. Grown children who made choices for their mothers without asking them. Who treated them like problems to solve or free help whenever they needed it. Who used mother's love and guilt to get what they wanted. After breakfast, we went to the park for our daily walk. Our group met at 9 o'clock. 7 ladies between 65 and 78 who loved exercising and talking without anyone telling us what to do. Good morning, Eleanor. How are you today? Linda Martinez asked. She was 75, her husband died 3 years ago, and she had so much energy it was inspiring. Great, Linda. Ready to walk and enjoy this beautiful weather. As we walked on the park path, listening to the other ladies talk about their grandkids and their favorite TV shows and their weekend plans, I realized how much I'd miss this if Kevin got what he wanted. A house full of people meant I couldn't leave when I wanted. I'd have to pay attention to everyone else. I'd lose my freedom. During the walk, Joyce Carter told us her daughter suggested she stop driving because she's getting too old. We were all upset about that. Joyce drives perfectly fine. All her papers are updated. She's more careful than most young people. They just don't get that we're still people with our own lives, said Maria Flores. She was 67 and worked part-time at a flower shop. They think turning 60 means you can't do anything right anymore. We all agreed. It was something that connected us. The fight to keep our independence in a world that kept trying to take it away. The fight to prove that being older didn't mean being useless or helpless. After the walk, Margaret and I went to the shopping center. I needed to buy some things and I also wanted to look around the stores I liked. We had lunch at a pretty restaurant. We took pictures that I posted online. We each bought a new sweater. You know what, Eleanor? I think you're doing the right thing. At our age, we don't have time to waste being unhappy just to please people who don't appreciate us. She was right. At 72, I couldn't waste what time I had left being miserable just to make people happy who didn't value what I'd sacrificed. I'd given enough. I'd been the devoted mother, the obedient wife, the hard worker. Now it was time to be Eleanor. That afternoon when I got home, I sat in my living room and looked at everything. My TV where I watched my shows. My couch where I read peacefully. My table where I ate breakfast looking at my garden. All of that would change if I let Kevin have his way. But I wasn't going to let him. This time, Eleanor Davis was going to fight for what was hers. On Thursday morning, while I was having my tea and checking messages from my church group, the doorbell rang. It was Sandra. My daughter-in-law showed up with a smile that didn't fool me one bit. That fake smile she used when she wanted something from me. Good morning, Mom. How are you doing, Mom? That's what she called me when she needed something. When she didn't need anything, she barely said hello. She was holding a box of muffins. Like a $6 gift was enough to butter me up for what was coming. Fine, Sandra. Come in. Do you want some tea? Oh yes, please. Came to talk about Friday. About the move. I wanted you to know we'll be really careful with your things. You don't need to worry about anything. My things. Like I was a guest in my own house. Like she was the new owner telling me not to worry about my own belongings. But I stayed calm. Smiled. I poured her tea in my nicest cup. So everything is ready? I asked as I sat down across from her at my kitchen table. Yes, almost everything is in boxes. The boys are so excited. Tommy asks me every single day when we're moving to Grandma's house. Jake already picked which bed he wants in the craft room. The craft room. My special space where I kept my knitting supplies organized by color, my patterns, my projects I was working on, where I spent my afternoons making beautiful things for myself and my friends. Now it was going to be a bedroom for two boys who would mess everything up. And my mom, Grace, is so grateful. You know, she can't be alone anymore. She forgets things. Sometimes she doesn't take her medicine. She'll be better taken care of here. There it was. The guilt trip. Making the invasion of my home sound like charity. Like I was responsible for taking care of a woman I barely knew. Like saying no would make me mean and heartless. And where will you and Kevin sleep? For now, on the living room couch. We're bringing a fold-out bed. But don't worry, we'll keep everything neat. And Kevin already talked to someone about maybe getting a bigger place soon. Another lie. They'd been in that 2-bedroom apartment for 4 years because they couldn't afford anything better. Kevin drove for a ride service and Sandra worked at a grocery store. Both jobs didn't pay much and weren't steady. They weren't getting anything bigger. They were going to stay in my house forever. Mom, I also wanted to say we'll help with the bills. Don't worry about that. Help with the bills. How nice. They were going to help pay for the electricity and water and heat in a house that wasn't theirs. Like they were doing me a favor. Like having 4 extra people living here wouldn't make all the bills twice as high or more. How much are you planning to give? The question surprised her. She didn't expect me to ask directly. She moved around in her chair uncomfortably and looked down. Well, we were thinking whatever we can manage. You know, money is tight for everyone right now. Course. Whatever they could manage. That meant they'd give very little when they felt like it, if they felt like it. Meanwhile, I'd be stuck paying for everything to support a family of 5. Sandra, can I ask you something? Yeah, sure. Did you and Kevin ask me if I wanted you to move in here? The question completely caught her off guard. She got nervous. She started playing with her napkin. She wouldn't look at me. It was obvious they never thought my opinion mattered about a decision that would completely change my life. Well, Mom, Kevin said you were okay with it. He said you thought it would be nice to have company. He told you that. He said you were really happy about the idea. That you were feeling lonely in this big house. Kevin lied to her so she wouldn't feel bad about taking over my house. He told her I was happy about it so she could feel good about using me. Sandra, I'm not lonely. Have my friends. My activities. My routine. This house isn't too big for me. It's perfect for me. I saw her face change. For the first time since she arrived, she looked unsure. She realized that maybe things weren't like Kevin told her. But Kevin said lots of things that aren't true. He told you he asked if I agreed. He told you we discussed how this would work. He told you I said yes because I wanted to. Each question was like a slap of truth. Sandra was realizing she'd been part of something that wasn't right. That she'd gone along with a decision made without caring about my feelings. Mom, we thought. You didn't think about me at all. You thought about solving your problem with space and you decided I was the answer. She went quiet. For the first time in 6 years of being my daughter-in-law, Sandra had nothing to say. For the first time, she understood that maybe they'd made a mistake. You don't want us to come. What do you think, Sandra? Would you want 4 people to show up at your house without asking if you were okay with it? She didn't answer. She just sat there playing with her napkin, thinking about what this really meant. Maybe for the first time, she put herself in my shoes and saw how unfair this all was. But we already packed everything. We already told our landlord we're leaving. We already told the boys. And there it was. The real reason they couldn't back out. Not because they understood they were wrong. But because they'd already done things they couldn't undo. They'd already made choices based on something they never actually checked with me about. Sandra, those are problems you made when you decided things for me without asking me. I'm not responsible for what happens because of choices I didn't make. She stood up from the table. She wasn't smiling anymore. There was no sweetness in her voice. Now she was annoyed because I wasn't going along with her plans like she expected. Kevin said you'd agree. Kevin was wrong. So what are we supposed to do? We don't have anywhere to live now. That's something you and Kevin need to figure out. I didn't create this problem. She left without saying goodbye. She left the muffins on the table like a reminder of her failed attempt to manipulate me. She left angry but also worried. For the first time, she realized Eleanor Davis wasn't the pushover old lady they thought she was. When the door closed, I sat on my couch and took a deep breath. It was the first battle and I won it. Sandra now knew things weren't going to be how she expected. Now I had to get ready for when Kevin found out his perfect plan was falling apart. I took out my phone and sent a message to Margaret. "It's starting." Sandra came over and left looking really upset. The answer came right away. "Are you okay? Do you need me to come there?" "Perfect. Tomorrow we keep going with a plan." For the first time in a long time I felt powerful. I felt like Eleanor Davis. Not Kevin's mother or Sandra's mother-in-law. I felt like a woman who knew exactly what she was worth. And I wasn't going to let anyone else decide things for me anymore. On Thursday night, Kevin showed up angry. He didn't ring the bell. He didn't say hello. He just walked right in with that mad face he makes when things don't go his way. I was watching my favorite cooking show peacefully on my couch when he stormed into my living room like a storm. "What did you say to Sandra?" His voice was harsh and demanding. It wasn't the voice of a worried son. It was the voice of a man who expected the women in his life to obey without question. But I wasn't the old Eleanor anymore. I told her the truth. That you never asked me if I agreed to you all moving in here. "Oh Mom, are you really going to be difficult now? Everything is packed. We already told the landlord. The boys already know they're moving. Now you're saying you don't want us here. Being difficult. Like defending my right to decide about my own house was just an old woman being stubborn. Like my feelings were just an annoying problem in his perfect plans. Kevin, sit down. Let's talk like grown-ups. I don't have time to talk. I have to work early tomorrow and Friday is moving day. I just need you to cooperate." "I'm not going to cooperate with something I never agreed to." He stood in the middle of my living room staring at me like I'd lost my mind. Like a 72-year-old woman didn't have the right to say no or stand up for herself. "What's wrong with you? You were never this selfish before." Selfish. There it was. The word I was waiting for. The word he always used when I didn't do what he wanted. Like taking care of myself was something bad. Selfish for not wanting my house invaded. Selfish for wanting to keep my peaceful life. You live alone in a 3-bedroom house. We're crammed in a tiny apartment. Any normal mother would be happy to help her son. Any normal mother. Another way to make me feel guilty. Like there was a rule book for what mothers should do and I was breaking all the rules. Like being a mother meant giving up my happiness until the day I died. "Kevin, do you know how hard I worked to buy this house?" "Yes, I know you worked hard. But what's the point of having a big house if you don't share it with your family? The point is I can finally live in peace after 72 years of giving everything to other people." That answer shocked him. He didn't expect me to be so direct. To put my needs before his. He expected tears and begging and guilt. He didn't expect strength. "Mom, we're your family. Family is supposed to help each other. When was the last time you helped me, Kevin?" The question left him speechless. He just stood there trying to remember any recent time he did something for me without me asking first. He couldn't think of anything because there wasn't anything. "I come visit you a lot. You come when you need something. When you have money problems. When you need me to watch the boys. When you want me to cook for some event. When was the last time you came just to see how I was doing?" He didn't answer because he knew I was right. His visits always had a reason. There was always something he needed from me. Besides, I kept going. "If we were really family like you say, you would have asked for my opinion before deciding this. But I thought you'd agree. You've always been there for us." "Exactly. I've always been there. I've always said yes. I've always put what you need before what I need. Don't you think it's time someone thought about Eleanor Davis?" He saw something different in my eyes. Something he'd never seen before. A firmness he didn't expect. An Eleanor who couldn't be manipulated with guilt anymore. "But Mom, what are we going to do? We don't have the apartment anymore." "That's your problem, Kevin. I didn't make that choice. You can't be this cruel." "Cruel? Another word to make me feel guilty. Like defending myself was mean. Like having boundaries was being heartless. You know what's cruel, Kevin? Walking into your mother's house and telling her other people are moving in without asking if she's okay with it. That's cruel. He finally sat on the couch, but not to talk nicely. He sat because he needed to think about how to fix the problem he created himself. Sandra is crying. The boys have their toys packed. Grace already sold some of her furniture. Every sentence was trying to make me feel guilty. Every detail was emotional pressure to make me give in. But it didn't work on me anymore. All of that happened because you made choices based on something you never actually confirmed with me. You're seriously not going to let us move in. You're not moving in. The answer was sharp and final. There was no room to negotiate. No space for begging. For the first time in my life, I'd set a hard line with my son. He stood up, angry, walking around the living room like a trapped animal. He ran his hands through his hair. He was desperate because his perfect plan fell apart. What if we pay you rent? What if we pay for all the bills? Well, what if it's just temporary? Just until we find our own place? Well, what if we promise not to bother you? To give you your space? Well, every no was like a punch to his pride. He wasn't used to women telling him no, especially not his mother. I don't understand what happened to you. You used to be different. I used to be a woman who didn't know what she was worth. Now I'm a woman who does. He left slamming the door, yelling that I was selfish, that he couldn't believe his own mother could be so heartless. He left saying he'd come back to make me see sense. But it was too late. Eleanor Davis had made her decision and there was no going back. That night I went to bed feeling calm for the first time in days. I'd stood up to Kevin and I won. I'd set my boundaries and I defended them. I defended myself. For the first time in 72 years I felt truly free. On Friday morning I woke up with a strange feeling in my chest. It wasn't nervousness. It wasn't fear. It was excitement. For the first time in years, I felt completely in control of my own choices, and that gave me energy I hadn't felt in forever. After my morning routine I called Margaret. Ready for the big day? She asked with that understanding only true friends have. More than ready. Pick me up in an hour. The plan I'd been thinking about for months was finally happening. It wasn't something I just decided suddenly. It wasn't an emotional reaction. It was a smart decision I'd been considering ever since Kevin started hinting that my house was too big for one person. Margaret arrived right on time in her gray car. The car her daughter also told her she should sell because she was too old to drive. Like me, she completely ignored that ridiculous suggestion. Nervous? She asked as I got in the car. Not at all. Actually, I feel more sure than ever. Our first stop was the bank. 4 years, I'd been saving in an account Kevin didn't know about. An account where I put money every month since I retired. It wasn't a giant amount, but it was enough for what I planned. Good morning, Mrs. Davis. The bank manager greeted us. How can I help you today? I need to make a transfer. Big transfer. The woman checked my account on her computer and nodded. For the last 6 years, I'd been very careful with my savings. I lived on my retirement money and saved everything I earned from knitting sweaters and scarves for people in the neighborhood. How much do you need to transfer? I told her the exact number. The manager's eyebrows went up in surprise, but she didn't ask questions. It was my money. My choice. Are you certain about this transaction, Mrs. Davis? Completely certain. Margaret squeezed my hand while we waited for the transfer to go through. She knew what this step meant. She knew I couldn't change my mind after this. All done, Mrs. Davis. Your transfer is complete. We left the bank and went straight to our second stop. The property office. Mr. David Cooper, a man around 55 who'd been helping me for the past few weeks, greeted us with a smile. Mrs. Davis, good to see you. Ready to sign the papers? More than ready, Mr. Cooper. I sat across from his desk while he got all the documents ready. Margaret stayed next to me, watching one of the most important moments of my life. Are you absolutely sure about this choice? Yes. Once we sign these, you can't cancel the deal. Mr. Cooper, I'm 72 years old. I've made very few really important decisions in my life because I was always thinking about other people. This is my decision and I'm completely sure. I signed each paper with a steady hand. My name, Eleanor Davis, appeared on every page as the only person responsible for this deal. There were no co-signers, no guarantors, no one else involved. It was all mine. Perfect. You'll get the keys to your new property tomorrow. New property. The word sounded like music. A place nobody knew about. That nobody could claim. That was completely mine. And the other deal? Yes. That's being handled too. The buyers are very excited. It's a lovely house in a great location. We had no problem finding interested people. Margaret looked at me with respect. She knew how hard it was to make this choice. How brave it was to do something like this at 72. We left the property office and went to a nice restaurant downtown for lunch. I needed to celebrate. I needed to feel like I was doing something special for myself. Eleanor, how do you feel? Feel free, Margaret. For the first time in my life, I feel completely free. And while we ate, we went over every detail of the plan. Everything was thought out. Everything was organized. There was no room for mistakes or second-guessing. What if Kevin gets really aggressive when he finds out? Let him get as aggressive as he wants. It's not my problem anymore. That answer surprised even me. For years, I'd lived worrying about my children's reactions, trying to avoid fights, giving up my own peace to keep family harmony. But not anymore. When are you going to tell them? Tomorrow. When they show up with all their stuff. Margaret smiled. She knew it was going to be a moment to remember. A moment when Eleanor Davis would finally show them what she was made of. After lunch, we went to my house so I could pack some important things. Not a lot. Just what mattered most. The clothes I loved best. My papers. Some photos of my grandchildren. My jewelry. My knitting supplies. Aren't you sad to leave this house? Margaret asked as I folded my favorite dresses. This house was my dream for 30 years. But now that I have it, I realized the dream wasn't the house itself. The dream was having something of my own where nobody could boss me around. Exactly. The house had been the symbol of my independence. But it wasn't independence itself. Independence was being able to decide. Choose. To say no when I needed to. As I was packing, my phone rang. It was Kevin. Mom, we need to talk. We already talked yesterday. No, we need to talk seriously. Come to my apartment or I'm coming there. There's nothing more to talk about, Kevin. Mom, please. The boys are crying. Sandra didn't sleep last night. Grace already sold her furniture. You can't do this to us. Do this to them. Like I was the one who caused the problem they created with their one-sided decisions. Kevin, what you do with your lives isn't my responsibility. You're my mother. Mothers are supposed to help their kids. And I did. For 45 years. I've done my part. Hung up the phone. There was no point continuing a conversation that just went in circles. Kevin still thought he could manipulate me with guilt. But that Eleanor didn't exist anymore. Margaret helped me carry the boxes to her car. There weren't many things, but they were the important ones. The rest would stay with the house. Where are we keeping these? To your place if that's okay. Just for tonight. Course that's okay. I love being part of your revolution. Revolution. What a perfect word. Because that's exactly what I was doing. Revolutionizing my own life. That night, I had dinner at Margaret's house. We cooked together. We watched a movie. We talked about our plans for the next few weeks. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't worried about what other people needed from me. Tomorrow is going to be a very interesting day, Margaret told me before I went to sleep. Tomorrow is going to be the first day of the rest of my life. And she was right. Tomorrow, Eleanor Davis would be reborn. Friday arrived with bright sunshine that seemed to light the path to my new life. I got up early, got dressed with special care, and went back to my house to wait for the show that was about to happen. 10 in the morning, the first moving truck pulled up. Kevin was driving it, followed by Sandra in her car with the boys and Grace. Behind them was another vehicle with more family members who came to help with the move. I watched them get out with the confidence of people who think everything will go their way. Kevin was directing the movers like he owned the house. Sandra was organizing boxes by which room they'd go in. The boys ran excitedly toward the door. I walked outside to meet them with a calmness that surprised even me. There were no nerves, no doubts, just a deep peace of someone who knows exactly what they're going to do. "Good morning," I said from the front porch. "Good morning, Mom. We're here. The guys are going to start bringing things in. Can you open the door wide so everything fits through?" "That won't be necessary, Kevin." He stopped in his tracks. The movers stood there waiting for instructions. Sandra looked up from the boxes she was sorting. "What do you mean it won't be necessary? You're not bringing anything into this house." The silence that followed was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Everyone froze, trying to understand what I just said. It was like I'd set off a bomb in the middle of their perfectly planned operation. "Mom, what are you talking about? The truck is here. We brought all our stuff. And you're taking all your stuff back where it came from." Kevin walked toward me with that face he makes when he thinks he can scare me into doing what he wants. But I wasn't the same woman anymore. "Are you crazy? Do you know how much this truck cost us? Do you know everything we had to do to organize this?" "That's not my problem, Kevin. I never asked you to organize anything." Sandra came over with the boys holding her hands. Tommy and Jake looked at me confused, not understanding why Grandma wouldn't let them into what was supposed to be their new house. "Mom, what's happening? The boys want to see their rooms." "There are no rooms for you here, Sandra." Grace, who'd been sitting quietly in the car until that moment, got out leaning on her walker. She was a 77-year-old woman, thin and weak-looking, who clearly had no idea what was going on. "Where's my room?" she asked in a shaky voice. "There's no room for you here, ma'am," I answered respectfully but firmly. It was like I'd slapped the whole family across the face. Kevin's face turned red with anger. Sandra started crying. The boys grabbed onto their mother, scared. "Mom, you can't do this to us. We have nowhere else to live. That's a problem you created when you made choices without asking me. But we're your family. A family that doesn't respect me isn't a family. It's people who use me." The movers were still standing by the truck, waiting for orders. The situation was getting uncomfortable for everyone there. "Sir," one of the movers asked Kevin, "do we bring the stuff in or not?" "Of course you bring it in. She's my mother. She'll get over her tantrum." "I'm not getting over anything," I said, speaking directly to the workers. "This is my house. I pay the bills and I decide who comes in. You're not unloading anything." One of the movers, an older man who'd obviously seen similar family fights, nodded in understanding. "We're sorry, sir, but if the lady says it's her house and she doesn't want us to unload, we can't do anything." Kevin completely lost control. He started yelling that I was crazy, that he couldn't believe his own mother was so mean, that he was going to get a lawyer to prove I wasn't thinking straight. "I'm going to talk to a lawyer. I'm going to prove you're senile and can't make decisions." "Perfect, Kevin. Do that. In the meantime, get your truck off my driveway." Sandra came up to me with tears in her eyes, holding Jake, who'd started crying. "Mom, please think about the boys. It's not their fault. Where are we supposed to sleep tonight?" It was the last try at emotional manipulation, using the boys as a shield. Like I was responsible for their parents' irresponsible choices. The boys aren't to blame, but neither am I. Their parents should have thought about them before making choices without a backup plan. "You can't be this heartless," Kevin shouted. "Heartless? You know what's heartless, Kevin? Walking into your mother's house and telling her other people are moving in without asking if she agrees. That's heartless." The argument was getting the neighbors' attention. Mrs. Patterson from next door had come out to get her mail, but she was clearly listening to everything. Mr. Williams was looking through his window, not even trying to hide his curiosity. "Mom, please. Let's talk inside. You're making a scene. There's nothing to talk about inside because you're not coming in." Just then, Margaret pulled up in her car. She'd planned to come give me support during this hard moment. She got out and walked toward us with that dignity that women our age have. "Good morning, Eleanor. Is everything all right?" Everything is perfectly fine, Margaret. They were just leaving. Kevin looked at her with disgust. He'd always thought my friends put weird ideas in my head. Like I couldn't think for myself. You're part of this too, he said to Margaret. You probably put these crazy ideas in her head. Young man, Margaret replied with impressive calmness. Your mother doesn't need anyone to put ideas in her head. She's a smart woman who knows exactly what she's doing. This isn't over, Kevin yelled as he led his family back to the cars. I'm coming back with a lawyer. I'll prove you're not in your right mind. When you come back with your lawyer, I shouted as he walked away. Make sure you also bring papers that prove this house is yours. 'Cause I have all of mine. They left just like they came, but with the boxes still in the truck and with a humiliation they'd never felt before. They left knowing Eleanor Davis wasn't the woman they thought they knew. When the last car disappeared around the corner, Margaret hugged me. How do you feel? Feel free, Margaret. For the first time in 72 years I feel completely free. And it was true. I'd stood up to my family. I'd set my boundaries. I defended my rights. I'd shown that Eleanor Davis was much stronger than everyone thought. But this was only the beginning. The best part was still coming. All Friday afternoon my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Calls from Kevin. Messages from Sandra. Even calls from relatives I didn't even know had my number. All with the same goal. To make me change my mind. The first call was from my brother Robert, who lives out of state and obviously got a very twisted version of what happened. Eleanor, is it true you kicked Kevin and his family out into the street? What's gotten into you? That boy is desperate. Robert, I didn't kick anyone out. I simply didn't let them into my house without my permission. But he's your son, Eleanor. Sons can always count on their mothers. Sons can count on their mothers, but they can't decide for them. My brother didn't understand. For him, like many people our age, being a mother meant always being available to fix your children's problems, no matter what it cost you personally. Where are they going to live? Where are the boys going to sleep tonight? That's something Kevin needs to figure out. He created this problem. Eleanor, don't be so harsh. Help them even if it's just for a little while. No, Robert. I've helped enough for 45 years. I hung up and turned off my phone. There was no point listening to the same arguments over and over. The whole family had decided I was the villain. The cruel mother who abandoned her son when he needed her. Margaret stayed with me all afternoon. We cooked together. We watched TV. We talked about everything except the family drama. I needed normal life. I needed to remember there was a world beyond Kevin's problems. But at 8 in the evening everything changed. They came back, but this time they weren't alone. Kevin brought Robert Martinez, his godfather, a 62-year-old man who'd always acted as a peacemaker in family fights. Good evening, Eleanor. Robert greeted me with that careful voice he used when he wanted to sound wise. Can we come in and talk? Good evening, Robert. Course, come in. They walked into my living room like it was a peace negotiation. Robert sat on the main couch. Kevin stayed standing, clearly annoyed but trying to control himself in front of his godfather. Eleanor, Kevin told me what happened. I think there's been a misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding, Robert. Kevin decided his family was moving into my house without asking me. I decided they wouldn't. But, Eleanor, understand the situation. The boy is desperate. He doesn't have his apartment anymore. He spent money on the moving truck. The kids have nowhere to sleep. Those are all results of choices he made without asking me. Robert sighed like he was dealing with a difficult child. It was the same patronizing attitude I'd seen my whole life. Older men trying to explain to women what their duty was. Eleanor, I know you feel disrespected because they didn't ask. But now we need to think about practical solutions. The practical solution is for them to find another place to live. And in the meantime, you're going to leave them homeless. I'm not leaving them anywhere. They put themselves in this situation. Kevin couldn't take it anymore and exploded. That's enough. You can't be this selfish. We're your family. Kevin, Robert interrupted him. Let me talk to your mother. He turned to me with that condescension I hated so much. Eleanor, I understand you're upset, but think about the boys. Think about Grace, who's an elderly woman who needs care. Are you really going to let them sleep in their car? The emotional manipulation was now coming from someone with more experience. Someone who knew exactly which buttons to push to make me feel guilty. Robert, the boys and Grace aren't sleeping in any car. They're staying at Sandra's parents' house. Kevin is exaggerating to make me feel bad. He went quiet. He didn't expect me to know the real situation so well. Besides, I continued, if they were really so worried about the boys and Grace, they would have planned better before making choices they couldn't undo. Eleanor, don't be bitter. The boy made a mistake, but he's sorry now. I looked at Kevin. There wasn't a trace of regret on his face. There was only frustration that his plans didn't work. Are you sorry, Kevin? Are you sorry for not asking me? Mom, I thought you'd agree. That's not the question. I'm asking if you regret not asking me first. He stayed silent. He couldn't admit he was wrong because that would mean accepting I had rights he ignored. The problem isn't whether you thought I'd agree. The problem is you made a decision about my life without including me. Robert tried a different approach. Eleanor, what do you need to reconsider? Do you want them to pay you rent? Do you want specific rules? I don't want anything, Robert. I just want them to respect my decision. And what is your final decision? That they're not living in my house. Kevin stood up, furious. Fine, I get it. You'd rather live alone in your big house than help your own family. I'd rather live with dignity than be a servant in my own house. Nobody was going to make you a servant. No. Who was going to cook for 5 extra people? Who was going to clean up after everyone? Who was going to take care of Grace when she got sick? Who was going to pay the electricity, water, and heat that 5 more people would use? He didn't answer because he knew the answer. Me. Eleanor Davis was going to carry all the weight while they figured out their lives. Besides, I added, if it was really temporary like you said, you could rent a small place for a few months. But we both know it's not temporary. We know that once you moved in, you'd never leave. Robert realized he'd lost. There was no argument he could use to convince me because all my points made sense. Eleanor, I hope you don't regret this choice. I've regretted not making choices for years. I'm not going to regret starting to make them now. They left more quietly than they came. Robert, used to solving family fights with his old-fashioned wisdom, had been defeated by a 72-year-old woman who simply knew her worth. Kevin left without saying goodbye. But before walking out the door, he yelled at me. Don't forget that one day you'll be old and sick and you'll need someone to take care of you. When that day comes, I replied without losing my calm, I'll hire someone to take care of me with respect, not someone who sees me as a burden. That night, after Margaret left, I sat in my living room and felt a peace I hadn't experienced in years. I'd resisted all the manipulation attempts. I'd held my ground despite family pressure. Eleanor Davis had won the most important battle of her life. But the war wasn't over yet. On Saturday, I had an early breakfast because I had an important appointment. At 11 in the morning, Mr. David Cooper arrived with a folder full of papers and a smile that immediately made me feel good. Good morning, Mrs. Davis. I'm here to give you the keys to your new property. Keys. I finally held the keys to my new life in my hands. A smaller but more modern house in a peaceful neighborhood where nobody knew me. Where nobody had expectations about what Eleanor Davis should or shouldn't do. And here are the papers for the sale of this property. Everything went smoothly, ma'am. The buyers are very happy. They already paid the full amount. I signed the last papers, feeling a mix of nostalgia and excitement. This house had been my dream for 30 years, but now it had become a battleground. It was time to let it go. When do you need to give up the property? Today if possible. The buyers want to move in next week. Perfect. There was no time for regrets or second thoughts. Margaret showed up with her car just as the lawyer was leaving. We'd arranged to pick up my things and officially move me into my new life. Ready for the big change? She asked as we loaded the last boxes. More than ready, Margaret. I feel like I'm starting over. As we were putting my belongings in the car, Mrs. Patterson, my longtime neighbor, came over. She'd been a good neighbor, respectful and quiet, but she was obviously curious about everything that happened. "Eleanor, is it true you're leaving?" "Yes, Patricia, I'm moving today." "And was all this because of the fight with Kevin?" "It wasn't a fight, Patricia. It was my choice." She looked at me with that expression I knew well. The look of someone who didn't understand how a mother could choose her own happiness over her children's needs. "Don't you feel bad leaving the house where you lived for so many years?" "I feel worse for wasting so many years not really living." She didn't understand my answer, but she wished me luck and said goodbye with that politeness people use when they don't approve of your choices but don't dare say it to your face. We were finishing loading when Kevin showed up. He was alone, without Sandra or the boys, with a face that mixed anger and panic. "What's going on here? Why are you loading your stuff?" "I'm moving, Kevin." "You're moving where?" "To my new house." He stood on the sidewalk like someone had hit him. He didn't expect this. He expected that after a few days of my stubbornness, I'd give in and open the doors to them. "You bought another house. With what money?" "With my money, Kevin. The money I saved for years. And this house. He sold it." The impact was immediate. He turned pale. He started shaking. He had to lean on the car to keep from falling down. "You sold the house. You sold our house." "I sold my house, Kevin. It was never ours. But it was the family house. It was where we were going to raise the grandkids. It was our inheritance." There it was. The truth. He didn't care about my happiness. He wasn't worried about my life. He was upset about losing the inheritance he'd already counted on getting. "Your inheritance is the education I gave you, the values I taught you, the opportunities one gave you to become a man. I bought this house for myself." "Mom, you can't do this. Cancel the sale. Talk to the buyers." "It's already done, Kevin. The papers are signed. The money is in the bank." He sat down on the curb and started crying like a little kid. He wasn't crying for me. He wasn't crying about our relationship. He was crying about the money he lost. About the house he wasn't going to inherit. "Where are we going to live? Where are my kids going to sleep?" "That's something you need to figure out like any other grown man." Margaret finished closing the trunk and signaled me it was time to go. There was nothing left to do here. "Kevin, I'm leaving. I hope someday you understand that what I did wasn't to hurt you. It was to respect myself. You can't just leave like this. I'm your son." "Exactly. Because you're my son. I hope you'll learn someday to value the women in your life instead of using them." I got into Margaret's car without looking back. In the side mirror, I saw Kevin running after the car, yelling for me to come back. That I couldn't do this to him. But it was already done. Eleanor Davis had closed a chapter of her life and was opening a completely new one. "How do you feel?" Margaret asked as we drove toward my new house. "Feel reborn." The new house was perfect. Smaller than the old one but with everything I needed. 2 bedrooms. One for me and one for when friends visited. Cozy living room. A modern kitchen. A small but pretty garden. "It's beautiful, Eleanor. You're going to be so happy here." She was right. For the first time in my life, I had a space that was completely mine. With no strings attached. No obligations to anyone else. That afternoon, while I was arranging my things in my new home, the phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. "Mrs. Eleanor Davis." "Yes, this is she." "This is attorney Marcus Henderson. I represent your son, Kevin Gomez. My client wants to challenge the sale of the property on Oak Street." So Kevin had followed through with his threat. He'd hired a lawyer to try to take away my right to sell my own house. "Counselor, that property was mine. I have all the documents to prove it." "I understand, ma'am. Perhaps we could meet to discuss a possible solution." "There's nothing to discuss, counselor. I used my legal right to sell a property that was completely mine." "Ma'am, my client claims the sale was made under emotional distress and without considering family rights." I couldn't help but laugh. Kevin was trying to prove I was mentally unstable or that the family had rights to my property. "Counselor, I'm 72 years old. I don't have dementia. I have all my mental abilities. And the property was only in my name. Your client has no legal claim to that house. Would you be willing to meet with me to discuss compensation? There's nothing to discuss. Good day. I hung up and sat on my new couch to think about everything that happened. Kevin wasn't going to give up easily. He'd keep pushing, threatening, trying to make me feel guilty. But I didn't care anymore. Eleanor Davis had made the most important decision of her life, and there was no going back. 4 months after moving into my new house, my life had completely transformed. I woke up every morning without the heavy weight of other people's expectations, without the pressure of having to please anyone else. My morning routine was still the same. A peaceful breakfast looking at my little garden, checking messages in the church ladies group. But now everything felt different. It was the taste of real freedom. Margaret came to visit me every Tuesday and Thursday. We'd formed a sisterhood of older women who supported each other. I'd also met my new neighbors. Linda Martinez, a 74-year-old widow who taught pottery classes, and Maria Flores, a 69-year-old woman who'd opened a small bakery from her home. You know what I love most about living here? I told Margaret as we had tea in my new kitchen. What? That nobody knows me as Kevin's mom or Sandra's mother-in-law. Here I'm simply Eleanor Davis. My new identity had grown in ways I hadn't expected. I'd signed up for a watercolor painting class at the community center. I'd rediscovered my passion for knitting, but now making things for myself. I'd learned to use my phone even better and had even started a blog where I posted photos of my projects. The money from selling my old house had let me not only buy the new property but also have a financial cushion that gave me peace of mind. For the first time in my life, I wasn't financially dependent on anyone, and that feeling was amazing. Have you heard anything from Kevin? Margaret asked me. His lawyer called me 2 more times, but I don't answer anymore. Robert told me they finally found a bigger apartment to rent. Life had moved on for everyone. Kevin had to face the results of his rushed choices, but he finally solved his housing situation without needing to invade his mother's house. Don't you miss them? It was a question I often asked myself. Did I miss my family? Did I miss the noise of the boys? The conversations at the table? The feeling of being needed? I miss the idea I had of them, I answered after thinking. I miss the illusion that they valued me. But I don't miss feeling used. That was the most honest truth I could give. 4 years I'd confused being useful with being loved. Being needed with being respected. One Sunday afternoon, while I was watering the plants in my garden, the doorbell rang. It was Tommy, my 9-year-old grandson, with Jake, my 7-year-old grandson. They were alone, which surprised me. "Grandma," Tommy shouted, running toward me. "Hello, my loves. What are you doing here? Where are your parents?" "Dad brought us, but he's waiting in the car," Jake explained. "He told us to tell you he misses you a lot." Emotional manipulation using the boys. Kevin had sunk to that level of desperation. "And do you miss me?" I asked, kneeling down to their level. "Yes, Grandma. Why don't you live in the big house anymore?" "Because I bought a nicer house where I can be happier." "Can we see it?" "Course you can." I let them in and showed them every corner of my new home. Their eyes got big when they saw my craft room perfectly organized with colorful yarn and my knitting needles. "So cool. Can you teach us to knit?" "Course. When your parents say it's okay, you can come on weekends and I'll teach you." We played for an hour. I made them their favorite cookies. We watched cartoons. We took selfies that I posted on my blog. These were real moments. Without pressure. Without hidden reasons. When my phone rang, I knew it was Kevin asking about the boys. "Mom, are the boys there?" "Yes, they're here. Very happy, by the way. Can we come get them?" "You can come, but only to pick them up. I'm not going to argue with you in front of them." 10 minutes later, Kevin and Sandra showed up. They looked different. More tired. More serious. The financial pressures of supporting a family without outside help had clearly affected them. Kevin greeted me with a softer voice than last time. "Hello, Kevin." The boys were very well behaved. Sandra barely greeted me. She was still resentful about everything that happened, probably blaming me for the difficulties they faced. Mom, can we talk for a minute? I already told you I won't discuss anything in front of the boys. It's not to argue. I want to say I'm sorry. I definitely didn't see that coming. Kevin, my proud and stubborn son, was apologizing. Boys, go play in the garden for a minute. When they left, Kevin sat on my new couch and took a deep breath. Mom, these past few months have been really hard. Not just because of money, but because I realized that I never asked what you wanted. And now you understand. Now I understand I made choices about your life without thinking about your feelings, and I'm sorry for that. It was progress. It wasn't a complete apology because he didn't mention the disrespect, the manipulation, or the legal threats. But it was a first step. And what do you want from me, Kevin? I don't want anything, Mom. I just wanted you to know I was wrong. Sandra stayed quiet, but I saw something in her eyes that might have been understanding. Maybe she'd also realized that mothers weren't unlimited resources for solving other people's problems. Kevin, I'm not your enemy. I never was. But I won't be the woman who says yes to everything anymore without being asked how I feel. Understand? Do you really understand, or are you just saying what you think I want to hear? He thought before answering. That gave me hope. For the first time, he was really thinking about my words. I think I understand. And I think I'm scared to admit my mom has a right to live her own life. It was the most honest thing I'd heard from him in years. The boys can come visit me whenever they want. They can stay on weekends if you need time to yourselves. But they'll come as loved guests, not as my responsibility. Really. But on one condition. That you respect me the way you'd respect anyone else who was helping you. He nodded with a humility I hadn't seen in him since he was a child. When they left, I stayed in my living room looking at the photos I'd taken with my grandchildren. They were beautiful, innocent, full of life. It wasn't their fault their parents made the choices they did. But now the relationship was going to be on my terms. I wouldn't be the grandma who said yes to everything because she was afraid of losing her grandchildren's love. I'd be the grandma who loved them enough to teach them that older women also deserve respect. That night before going to sleep, I looked at myself in the mirror of my new bedroom. I saw a 72-year-old woman who'd learned to value herself. I saw Eleanor Davis. Whole, free. The master of her own choices. I got into bed knowing that the next day I'd wake up in my house. With my schedule. With my plans. With my life. Finally, after so many years, I was the one deciding who to take care of. And the first person I decided to take care of was myself.